So in this session, we are going to discuss about how to pass the arrays in a function. So in a normal C program, we are using a lot of functions. Functions are basically a small part of a program, subprograms that are being written in order to execute some specific logic. So today we are going to see how we can pass arrays in a function. So basically we know the concept of arrays. So it consists of some collection of items that are having the same data type. So we do apply arrays in a lot of real-time applications. So today we are going to see how we can pass the arrays in a function. So basically we need the pointers in order to pass your array into a function. So the role of the pointers is going to play a very important role when we are trying to process an array inside a function. So basically arrays can be passed in a function using the pointers. So whenever we are trying to process an array that consists of the elements that are of same data type, we need to have a particular array as a formal parameter to the function. So basically your function will expect an array to be a formal parameter. So you know that in a function definition, we used to have a formal parameter that is getting called by the actual argument or the actual parameter. So the actual parameter will pass the information to the function definition in the name of the formal parameter. So the formal parameter, what it tries is, it is going to make use of the values that is present within the definition, and it will try to process the particular values within the definition. So basically your function is going to expect an array to be a formal parameter. So here what happens is, we'll first see the syntax, how you can declare an array, how you can declare the function with respect to an array as a formal parameter. So basically you need a function name, and then you have to when we try to pass the list of arguments inside the function, we need to specify the name of the array and then what is the data type of the array. So basically the array, when we are trying to process, okay, we will be defining an array in terms of the data type and then the name of the array. So in your function declaration, what you are supposed to do is, we have to give the name of the function and then what is going to be the name of the array that you are going to process. Or in other way, what you can do is, you can give the name of the function and then you can give the array name. Before that, you can apply the unary operator on top of the array name. So which means the name of the array. So let's say for example, array followed by the subscript, that is the open and the closed square bracket. Okay, this indicates about the subscript or the index. So you have to pass the name of the array without the index value, or you can simply use a pointer name. You can simply use the name of the array as a pointer. So basically both has got the same meaning. What happens is, the name of the array or the array name that is being represented as a pointer variable will give the address of the 0th index element. So address of the 0th index element is being copied into the local pointer variable. So which means the name of your array that is being used in the declaration or that is being used in the definition will act as a pointer variable, and this particular pointer variable will map to the address of the first element that is present inside your array. So that is why I mentioned here as a 0th index element. So 0th index element is going to be your first element in the array. So basically this particular formal parameter where you are giving the array name without the index, without the indices value, or if you are going to give the name of the array with respect to the pointer, okay, so basically both are going to be the same. Both this particular parameter will map to the address of the first element that is present inside your array, and this particular address is going to be accessed by a local pointer variable, and that local pointer variable is nothing but your formal parameter. So only the address will be copied inside this particular formal parameter, not the value. So always remember, only the address of the first array element that is present in the array will be copied into the formal parameter, not the actual value that is present in the array element. Okay, so formal parameter is declared as an array, okay, which is nothing but a pointer to a variable. So which means during the function call, you will be passing the original array that you have created, and what happens in the function definition is, a parameter is being created which is nothing but a pointer variable which is pointing to the address of the first element that is present in the array. So moving on further, what we are going to see is how you can access the array to the elements, how you can access the array elements using the pointer variable. So let's say for example, we have the array name. Listen here, we have given the array name as a formal parameter, and this particular formal parameter will copy the address of the first element that is present inside your array. That will copy the address of the first element that is present inside your array. So basically, when I give the array name, so the array name is going to indicate about the memory block of the first element that is present inside your array. And then we are going to make use of the index value that is present in the array. So basically your array will start off with the index value that is 0. Okay, so we'll see how to access the array elements with the example in another couple of minutes. So before that, always remember, whenever we try to access the array elements, first the size of the array should be known. So in order to know the size of the array, the thing is that if you want to process the array within the function, then the size of the array must also be passed to the function. So basically there should be two input parameters, or there should be two input arguments inside your function definition. So basically you will have the function name followed by what is the array that you are going to process, and then you are also supposed to mention about the size of the array. So this is the syntax in order to declare your array with respect to the size. So as we saw in the previous couple of minutes back, okay, we are going to use the same function name. We are going to give the name of the array without the index value, and then we have to pass the size of the array also as an input argument. So, or you can simply pass the pointer variable. You can pass the name of the array as a pointer, and then you can give the size as an input argument to the function. So basically there should be two input parameters in order to work out the concept of arrays inside a function. One is the name of the array, and the second thing is the size. So as I told you, let's say for example this is my array. So my array has got 4 elements, and let us consider this array is as of integer data type, and I have 4 elements, that is 100, 200, 300 and 400. Since my array is of integer data type, every element will occupy 2 bytes of memory location. So 100 is going to occupy 2 bytes of memory location, so 1001 and 1002, and 200 is going to occupy 2 bytes of memory location, 1003 and 1004. So similarly 300 and 400, they will also occupy 2 bytes of memory location. So to access any element that is present inside your array, the index plays a major role. So as I told you, the location of the 0th index element will be the first address that is going to be helpful in order to process your array. So when I say about 100, the index of the element that is present inside the array, 100 is the first element that is present in your array, and the index of that particular element is going to be 0. So always the index of the first element inside an array will be 0, and then the last element index will be the array size minus 1. So let's say for example there are 4 elements in the array, and the index of the last element will be size minus 1, that is 4 minus 1, that is equal to 3. So now how the array elements are going to be accessed. So let's say for example I have passed the array name without the index using the square bracket, or I am just passing the array name as a pointer variable. So here what happens is, when we are trying to map this particular pointer variable during the function call, it is very important that we have to pass the address of the array as a input argument. I'll explain this when I am trying to give a demonstration. But as of now, what happens is, whenever the name of the array is being given, it indicates the address of the array itself. And that address of the array is going to point out to the address of the 0th index element. The 0th index element is 100 here, and 100 is occupying the memory location 1001. So whenever you are trying to declare your array as whenever you are trying to declare your function with the input argument as an array, the array name will point to the address of the first element that is present inside your array, that is 1001. So in this particular example, 1001 is the address of the first array element, that is 100, or 1001 is the address of the 0th index element of the particular array. So remember again, whenever you are giving the name of the array as an input argument in the function definition, what happens is the memory address of the first element is being pointed. So basically this particular name, the array, it will act as a pointer variable. And it will point to the address of the first element that is present inside your array. So how I can access the next element? So as I told you, here we are using the name of the array plus the index value. So whenever I am going to give the name of the array plus the index value, then directly the pointer will move to the next block of memory. So what happens is, 100 is being positioned with the 0th index value, and when I am trying to increment the index value by 1, because I have to process the next element, So what happens is I'm going to just increase the index value by 1. So when I'm trying to increase the index value by 1, actually the memory block moves to the next element. So what happens here is the next block of memory is trying to get accessed. So 1003 will be the next block of memory. So what happens here is we'll be using a for loop in order to access each and every element in the array that is present with the help of the index value. With the help of the index value. So initially we will have the index value as 0. Initially we'll have the index value as 0. So array plus index is going to talk about. So okay, so array has got the value that is 1001. That is 1001. So in that 1001. You are going to see the index value equal to 0. So index value is equal to 0. So the memory block will remain in the address of the first element, that is 100. So 1001. So you are trying to access the element that is present in the array, that is the first element that is present inside the array, that is 100. Okay, so now what happens is if I want to retrieve the value that is present in this corresponding address, that is 1001, then we have to apply the star operator on the address of the array. So I'm just trying to apply the star operator on the address of the array. So actually the array name is holding the address of the first element that is present inside the array, and on top of it, when I'm trying to apply the unary operator, we are trying to do the dereference concept. Okay, so what happens is in the address of 1001 we have got the value 100 and that is being retrieved. So when we use a for loop, when we try to update the index value as 1, that is I'm moving to the next block of memory. So what happens is your array will have the value that is the next block of memory, that is 1003. So when you try to apply the unary operator on 1003, you can retrieve the next element. So next we'll see a very simple demonstration of how to access the array elements using the pointers inside a function. So now we are going to see how we can pass the arrays inside a function. A simple demonstration for how to pass the arrays inside a function. So before I start off with passing an array inside a function, first let us see the normal ways of creating an array, how to get the array elements during the runtime, and how to display the array elements after getting it from the user. Okay, so to begin with, I'm just start including my preprocessor directives. stdio.h and conio.h, and I start writing my main function definition. So let's say for example I'm creating an array of size 10, and I declare another variable size. So I just call the clear screen function, and now I'm prompting the user to enter the size of my array. So using the scanf statement, I'm getting the size of the array from the user, and now I'm just writing a logic to get the array elements from the user during the runtime. So I'm making use of a for loop, and for the for loop I'm using a variable that is I. Let's say for example I've declared I. So the index value starts from the value that is 0 in an array, so it has to process till the size minus 1, that is the last index of the array element, and you have to keep on incrementing the index. So let's say for example I'm giving the size value as 5 during the runtime. So your array index will start with the value 0, and it will process till I is less than 5, that is up to the condition 4 is less than 5 is true. So which means your I value will process up to 4, which means we can try to get the elements and store in the index 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. So which means you can store 5 elements inside your array. So I'm just calling a scanf function, and I'm storing the array elements with the help of the address of the array of the index I. So I think these, if you know the concept of arrays, I think this is something very familiar to get the array elements from the user. And if I want to display the array elements, so I'm going to make use of the same for loop, starting from the index value 0 to the index value that is less than 5, less than the size, and I keep on incrementing it, and I'm just printing the array elements. So the array elements are %d/t, and I'm just printing the values of array. So this is a normal operation, so I'm just calling the getch function, and I'm returning a integer value for my main. So my main function definition is done. Okay, so let's say for example I'm entering the size of the array as 5, and I'm entering 5 values. So the array elements are getting displayed. So this is something very common operation. We have not used any functions, we have not used any pointer variables in order to create and display the array elements. Now I'm just going to make use of the functions in order to get the array elements from the user, and in order to print the array elements to the user using the functions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to declare a couple of functions. So let's say for example star a and n void show star a and n. So these two statements are function declaration. These two statements are function declaration. So the first function is get. The first function is get, and this particular function has two input arguments, that is a is a pointer variable and another integer variable, that is n. So these are nothing but your formal parameters. Okay, so this is nothing but a function declaration that has two input arguments. One is a pointer variable and the other one is a normal integer variable. Okay, so the same applies for another function, that is show. So here what happens is in both these functions the first parameter is a pointer variable, which means this particular parameter is going to point to some address of another variable. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this first function in order to get the array elements. In order to get the array elements from the user, I'm going to make use of the function get, and in order to display the array elements to the user, I'm going to make use of the function that is show. So my coding is going to be the same until we are going to get the size of the array from the user. So what I'm going to do here is I'm first going to call the get function. I'm just going to call the get function from the user. I'm sorry, I'm going to just call the get function. So before that I'm just asking the user to enter the array elements. So enter so I'm going to ask the user to enter the 5 array elements, or let's say for example the number of size whatever has been given by the user during the runtime. So now I'm going to call the function that is get. So remember here we have to pass the address of your array. Remember you have to pass the address of your array. So always remember, just passing the array name will point out to the address of the 0th index element. So here my array name is 10. I'm sorry, my array name is ARR. Okay, so this particular parameter ARR is going to point to the address of the 0th index element, or the address of the first element that is present inside your array. So I'm just giving the size as the second argument. So remember, this is basically a function call. This particular statement is basically a function call. Okay, this is basically a function call, which means here I'm going to avoid these statements. With my function call, what I'm going to do is I'm going to avoid these statements what we saw in the previous few minutes back. Okay, so what happens here is this is just a function call, and this function call has got the actual arguments, that is the name of the array and then the size. So this name of the array is going to point to the address of the first element that is present inside your array. Okay, so this ARR is simply going to point, or it is just going to have the address of the first element that is present inside your array. Okay, so now, so once I'm going to get the the array elements from the user, I have to display the array elements to the user. So I'm just going to make use of the same array name. I'm just going to make use of the same array name because whatever value I'm going to get from the user will be stored in the array ARR. Okay, and that value that is stored in the array ARR should be displayed to the user. So let's say for example I'm going to get up to 5 elements I'm going to determine the size of the array as 5. Then the same size will be given as the input argument because I have to display all the 5 elements right from the beginning till the end, okay, only with the condition that is size. Okay, so this is also another function called of my array. Okay, now so as I told you, we are going to replace this particular manual coding whatever we have written in the main function into the separate function. So I'm having a separate function to get the array elements, I'm having a separate function to display the array elements. So what I'm going to do is after my main function I'm just writing the function definition. I'm just writing the function definition of my get function. So here this is my function definition that has two parameters, that's the formal parameters a and n. Okay, so a and n are the two formal parameters. Remember, a is a pointer. A is a pointer variable. So this particular pointer variable will map to the address of the first element in the array. The address of the first element in the array. So now, so star a, what is the meaning of star a then? So which means it is trying to retrieve the value that is present in the address of the first element in the array. Now I'm just simply copy pasting the logic. So previously I have written in the main function. Now what happens is I'm going to use the same logic inside my function that is get. Okay, so I have to get the array elements from the user. So here I'm just declaring a for loop variable, and remember your formal parameter that you are going to use is a, and that formal parameter alone should be used inside your function definition. Inside your function definition you have to make use of the formal parameter. So I'm done with my definition of my function. So here what happens is get is, the function get is called. The function get is called, okay, and we are passing the address of the array, and that address of the array is being caught by a pointer variable in your function definition. So now you are giving the size of the array as well, okay, as a second input argument to the function definition. Now what happens is I'm creating a loop variable inside my function definition, and this loop variable starts with the index of the first element that is present in, index of the first element, that is 0, and this condition is getting satisfied, that is 0 is getting satisfied with the condition that is 0 is less than 5, the condition is true. So for example I'm giving the size of the array as 5, okay, so 0 is less than 5, the condition is true. So what happens next is we are trying to retrieve the element from the user during the runtime, and we are going to put it in the first index. There's a memory location of the first index. Okay, so the array will, the first array element will be got, okay, and then the I value is getting incremented. So 1 is less than 5, the condition is checked, and if this condition is true we are going to get the second element. So let's say for example I'm giving the elements 12, 23 like that. Okay, so like that it goes on, okay, and I'm going to enter 5 elements inside my array. Okay, now so I've got the elements from the user. Okay, so my get function is done. Now I'm going to call the next function, that is show. So whatever elements that I have got from the user have to be displayed to the user again. So what I'm going to do is I'm writing another function that is show. So which will accept the input argument as an array, and the second input argument, that is the second formal parameter, is the size. So whatever logic we had written in order to retrieve the address, in order to retrieve the elements that is present inside the array, the same logic is going to be used over here. So I'm just simply pasting the same logic over here to display the array elements. So as I told you, A is the formal parameter that is holding the address of the array. So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to declare another variable, that is I value is declared, and instead of the size we have to make use of the value that is n, because the size value is taken a copy inside the variable that is n, okay. So now again we are going to make use of the formal parameter that is A to access the array elements. So let me run this piece of code. So let's say for example the size of the array is 5. I'm entering 5 array elements, 12, 23, 34, 45 and 56. So this input that we are getting, that is the 5 array elements that we are getting, so that is done with the help of the function called that is get, and the array elements whatever that are getting displayed, that is being done with the help of the function called that is show. So this is a very simple example to read and display the array elements that has been created with the help of the user. Okay, so now let us see how you can display the even numbers that are present inside the array using the same function concept. What I'm going to do is I think you are clear with how to create your array and how to display your array. Now moving on further, there's a small extension in this particular program. What I'm going to do is I have to display the even numbers that are present inside my array. So let's say for example I'm just going to make use of function show even. I'm going to make use of a function that is show even, and I'm going to declare this particular function void show even, and again I'm going to give the same, or you can even give a different variable names as a pointer. So let's say for example I'm giving the value that is m to indicate the size, and this x is going to indicate the array that is getting called. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the function definition for the show even. So let's say for example show even is my function, and I have a pointer variable x as an input argument, and I have another integer variable that is m. So m is going to indicate the size, and x is going to catch the address of the first element that is present inside your array, or it is going to catch the address of your array, simply to tell. So now I have declared a variable I, and each and every array element should be processed. So I have to open a for loop, I value equal to 0 and I is less than m. So m indicates about the size, because we are passing the size as an input argument during the function call. And that size value is taken a copy inside the variable that is m in your function definition. So now in your function definition I'm using the for loop, and I'm just checking the condition, and I'm going to increment the index, and in every index I'm just going to have a check whether x of I, that is whatever value that is present in the corresponding index, whether it is divisible by 2. If this condition is true, then I'm just going to print the corresponding numeric value. So that is x of I. So before this I'm just giving a small printf statement. The even numbers in the array are, I'm just giving a small printf statement here. Okay, so if this condition is true, so remember what happens here is x is having the address of your first element in the array, and what happens is the address of the first element in the array is there. Okay, and here we are trying to make use of the pointer variable, and x is actually a pointer variable, so it will try to process whatever value is present in the corresponding index. So we are going to make use of the array name and the index. As I told you in the presentation before, okay, we will have the name of the array followed by the index in order to access the element, and that particular element we are going to see whether it is exactly divisible by 2. If that condition is true, then we are going to display the array element. We are going to display the array element. And now I'm trying to run this piece of code. Okay. So here the size of the array is 5, and I'm entering the 5 array elements 12, 23, 34, 45 and 56. So here you can see the array elements are getting displayed, and then the even numbers in the array are getting displayed. Okay, so this is a very simple program where I have tried to pass the array as an input argument to a specific function to display the even numbers that are entered inside the array. So if I want to display the odd numbers in the array, so similarly I can create one more function. So I'm just giving the function name as show odd. I'm using the function name as show odd, and I'm going to call the function show odd. After show even, I'm going to call the function that is show odd, and I'm creating a separate function that is similar to show even. So here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to display the odd numbers that are being entered in the array. So the odd numbers that are entered in the array. So I'm just going to have a check that if this particular number is not going to be divisible by 2. Okay, so if I run this piece of code, you can see the size of the array. So I'm entering the 5 array elements 12, 23, 34, 45, 56. So you can see the list of array elements. So you can see the list of array elements 12, 23, 34, 45, 56 that is displayed after calling the function that is show, and you can see the list of even numbers in the array 12, 34 and 56. This is displayed as a result of calling the function that is show even, and last you can see the odd numbers that are present inside the array 23 and 45. So that is due to the outcome of calling the function that is show odd. So as I told you, the main function is getting executed first, then your clear screen is executed, then you are asking the user to enter the size of the array. So the user is entering the size of the array as 5, and once the size has been entered, then we are calling the function that is get. So in the get we are going to enter the array elements, and once the array elements are being got, now we are going to call the function that is show. So once the function show is being called, you can see in the output window the array elements are getting displayed. Whatever elements that we have entered, that array elements are getting displayed. Now we are calling the function that is show even. So after the function show even is getting called, you can see the output, the even numbers are getting displayed from the whatever values we have entered. Then we are going to call the function that is show odd. So whatever logic is being written in the show odd, that will be executed. So here you can see whatever logic has been written inside the show odd function, that will be executed, and then we are going to call the getch function. So before that, if you see the output screen, you can see the odd numbers in that array is also getting displayed. So now the getch function is called. So I'm just returning the numeric integer value 1 after the main function has been executed successfully. So if you have any queries related to this particular video, you can post your questions in the comment section. Thank you for watching this video.